think about ways to avoid the food waste. I think that's one of the biggest things. When I hear that 40% of food is wasted, that's when I know that food costs can definitely come down by using all the food that you prepare, that you buy. And then I think, the other thing is to use the resources that you have in your community, the farmers markets, the CSAs, the big box places that are cheaper. All of those can make a difference. Or Instacart.
Welcome to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. My name is Melissa Slemp, a certified nutritional health coach and the founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa, where I help women with type 1 diabetes to feel more empowered and live their best life despite their diagnosis. Each week, I will bring conversations and strategies from guest experts and my experience living with type 1 for over 40 years now. So if you're a woman ready to redefine how diabetes can look and feel for you, then the Type 1 and Midlife podcast is the show for you. Well, hello and welcome. Today, I'm excited to have our regular guest contributor, Kitty Finklea, is back. She's a registered dietitian and she comes in here on a regular basis, giving us wisdom on food and nutrition and everyday advice, women living with diabetes, and what we need to know to not only take care of ourselves, cook healthy meals, and to better manage our blood sugar while we're doing that. So today we're going to talk about some strategies about how to save money on groceries, including farmers markets and buying in bulk, and how we need to and we should be able to add variety in our diet, and how important that is to incorporate new recipes to be able to do that. And talking about CSAs, which is community supported agriculture. And we have some links that we will share here in the show notes to help guide you. And you can visit those sites to learn even more about these topics here today. And we're going to talk about planning and how important it is to know ahead of time what we're shopping for so that we can better create those meals and avoid the food waste. Again, if we're not throwing food away, we're saving money because we are able to have a plan about what we're going to buy, what we're going to cook, and prevent things from spoiling and having to be tossed out. And be sure to check out, like I was saying, there's some sites here that are linked, CSA and Instacart. Learn about how this has saved me money at the grocery store, because we do tend to save money when we're not walking around the grocery store, especially if we're hungry, because that always seems to lead to more things getting tossed into the shopping cart. So when we have a plan and we're very, very deliberate about what we need, what we're cooking for that week, and Instacart is a great tool to use for that. So again, see that link here to learn more about Instacart, and you get to save $30 off of your first order using my discount code. So I hope you'll check that out. So listen in for some culinary wisdom and some money-saving tactics and some great recipes. We'll also link some recipes here so we can help get you started in the kitchen without compromising taste, because this is about finding and affording good ingredients in order to make some really good home-cooked meals. So enjoy the show. Just a reminder that nothing you hear on this Type 1 and Midlife podcast should be a substitute for professional medical advice. Please always consult your medical professional before changing your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, hello, everybody. We are back with Kitty Finklea. She is our regular expert registered dietitian that pops in here on a continuous basis. We love having you here, Kitty.
Thank you. I always love being here.
Yeah. So today, I'm sorry. We got some feedback. We've actually had a survey that we just surveyed some of our listeners and some people that are in my community as well, and yours. And this topic came up. They wanted some information about healthy eating on a budget. which, and I'm sure you know this too, Kitty, the food prices are going up right now. We're recording this in mid-August, obviously 2023. So that's the year, just in case you're in here like 3 years from now and you're trying to think what year we were talking about the cost of food. But it's getting hard, isn't it?
It is
Or,
getting hard.
yeah.
And I think
So,
the frustrating thing for me is when they keep the price the same, but then they make the portion smaller. It's like it
mhm.
feels like such a rip-off.
You're gonna pay the same, but you're not gonna get as much. Yeah, that's for sure. Especially if you have a family to feed too.
Exactly.
Yeah, in this topic, I know for myself, I cook for my husband and I. David is type 1 diabetes, type 1 diabetes. He lives with type 1 diabetes as well. And just so you know, just he will be on the show eventually. He and I are just trying to coordinate our schedules so I can record an episode with him because there's a lot to be shared with that. But
Oh, that'll be fun.
yes, absolutely. So stay tuned for that. But we love to cook, and it's just the two of us. Generally speaking, it's just he and I that I cook for. So there's no kids in the house. So that makes it a little easier. What do you think about that? Is it easier
Definitely.
to shop? Maybe it's probably easier to
Yes,
shop and cook for two as
because if you
opposed to
have
a
2
whole
or 3
family.
kids, you've got all those, preferences,
Uh-huh.
it's a challenge.
That's true. That's true. So our goal here is to empower you ladies in the kitchen, to give you some choices and some ideas. And that is so true. I wasn't thinking about that until we started talking about that, is that there's so many dynamics with who wants what for dinner that's going to
Yes,
be sitting at the table. Hopefully they're sitting at the table if that's something that you're able to still do with you and your family every night. But that's another whole dynamic, isn't it? Because that can really get expensive when you're really preparing or buying for different taste buds, right?
right, right. But, it's not about it's not about cooking something separate for each person. It's just making sure that each person has something they will eat. So when you're planning a meal, it's like
Right.
having something, and then if they don't eat it, it's like you can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a bowl of cereal, right?
I like that. Yes, because that's how we raised our children, isn't it?
Yeah,
This is what mom's cooking, and take what you can muster tonight, and you can think about the rest afterwards. But yeah, I totally get that. So what is when you think about this topic, what comes to mind first? And I'm going to share what came to mind when I was looking at us talking about saving money at the grocery store.
well, there's a couple of things. First off, cooking at home is definitely cheaper than eating out.
Mhm. Most
So,
definitely.
and having a plan, like planning menus, I usually plan Sunday through Thursday, and then we often eat out on the weekends. So that's 5 dinner meals that I'm
Yeah.
planning. And definitely think about, like, what are your 3 to 4 breakfast choices? And some people can eat the same thing every day, and some
Mhm.
people need to switch it up. So if
Mhm.
you
Good
need
point.
to switch it up, I recommend having at least 3 breakfast choices that are your go-tos. You can always add something else to it, but if you're in a rush in the morning trying to get out the door, what are your go-to choices? What
Mhm.
can you take with you? What
Mhm.
all of those things come into play. And then for lunch, of course, packing your lunch for work, if you work at an office, is going to be cheaper than eating out. So, thinking about what major lunches you're going to pack. Some people like leftovers, some people
Mhm.
don't. So, it
Mhm.
really is working with your preferences and then coming up with those meal plans and lists. And then the next thing is going shopping. Like I know Melissa does Instacart, and that keeps her
Yes.
from putting chips or things in the cart. But for
Yeah.
me, when I was working in an office and not working from home, I always had trouble if I ate lunch and I didn't have a snack before I left and I went to the store hungry. So
Mm.
anytime you go to the store hungry, you're going to put more in your cart.
That's true.
So it's
That's
really
true.
important. I noticed and I made a plan that if I was going to the store, I would eat like a kashi bar or something on the way so that I wouldn't buy things because if it's in the house, it's in your mouth. So if
There you
you
go.
get
That's
it in the
true.
cart, it's gonna be in
Yeah.
the house.
Yeah.
So it's looking for things like that. So sticking to your list that you make. I'm a big meal prepper as well. So a lot of people will prep ahead. Some people like to cook fresh every night. So it's like working with all of the things that
Mhm.
you plan to do.
Yeah, yeah, really good point. And that's the first thing that came to mind with this topic with me is having a plan because it's easy. I mean, we can go back to and just talk about the cost of food, and but I think deciding that you're going to be cooking 3, 4, 5 nights a week, having those ingredients available on hand, and having a plan. Yeah, just like you say, and it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be extravagant. We obviously want it real whole food the best we can. So what do you think? Let's start with vegetables. What's a good choice as far as, and this is going to depend on where we live and access to fresh. And I know we've talked about how frozen, there's some amazing frozen organic options in the freezer section of the grocery store. Yeah,
Definitely. And,
yeah.
the way I think about it too is how often are you going to the grocery store?
Mm,
Because generally I try to go once a week, so more of my fresh fruit foods are at the beginning, and then the frozen or the canned tend to come in later in the week.
that's a good point.
So
That's a
that's
good point.
kinda
Yeah.
how mine works, or I might stop by. Here's another thing, like, farmers markets tend to have
Mhm,
fresher in season that are
mhm.
cheaper, so a lot of times I'll supplement, like, going in Wednesday and getting more fresh vegetables. Cabbage is almost always cheap, potatoes are
That's
almost
true.
always cheap.
Yeah.
Um, in the grocery store, dried beans and peas and whole grains are usually cheaper.
Good
Um,
point. Good
yeah,
point.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
if you do have 2 or 3 kids, buying in bulk, or if you have, room in your house to store things, buying in bulk is also a great way to save money.
Save money. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So let's talk about I'm going to use my community. I'm very, very blessed. We have a farmers market that's actually we have a Wednesday and a Saturday. We also have a lot of local farmers that bring their goods to the farmers market, or they have what's called the in-home delivery. So, and I know the term CSA, which is community supported agriculture. That's something that you can look up. Just you can just search that on the browser and look to see if there's one that is close to you that can deliver to you. Because I think that's one of the things I'm learning too from the different people that I'm meeting and coaching is not everybody's access is the same. I'm lucky where
correct.
I'm at, and I have good grocery stores. We have a couple fresh markets that are literally just a couple miles down the road. So I am there's so much abundance close to me, and I don't take that for granted. I try to support them and shop at them as much as I can. Another one is localharvest.org. That is, so those are two, I believe those are two separate sites to search, but localharvest.org is one you can definitely look up and see where it points you to see what kind of access. So what about you, Kitty? What kind of access do you have where you live?
We do not have, like, a fresh market or a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, which I love Trader Joe's and usually
Mm-hmm.
travel 90 miles, 75 miles once a month to get what I love
Oh,
there
that's
because they have
something.
a lot of frozen foods that I really like.
Okay.
But we and our Lidl closed. We're live in an area where there's not a lot of options, but we do have,
Okay.
2 farmers markets, which help a lot as far as, like, getting grass-fed produce, which is expensive, but it's less
Mm-hmm.
expensive locally than it often is at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mine is just about having that plan is the
Yeah,
main thing for
yeah, yeah,
me.
just noticing what you want. And, we can talk too about what's in season, because that's another topic
Exactly.
too. So again, obviously, if we are shopping locally, that's going to show up with what's available. And that helps to just put variety on our plate too. So,
And and I
yeah.
think that's where I'm a little bit more open with my meal plans because it's like whatever's
Mm,
fresh, whatever looks
true.
good.
That's
I
true.
might plan my meat and my starch, and then my veggies might be from the grocery store, the farmer's market. We have a
Mhm.
local farmer's market on Saturday morning, and then one that's every day. So,
Okay. Yeah,
except
you
for
do have.
Sunday, and so a lot of times I'll go to that Saturday one, but I know I can go anytime to the other one. So that makes
Mhm.
it's like, where do you like to shop? Where do people like to shop? And then
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
times I will go to a Walmart or we have a Costco out of town,
Mhm.
a
Same here.
Sam's, because
Mhm.
those bigger box stores, you can get larger quantities for less money.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
a
definitely.
great way to save money if you have one close to you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so something you brought up something just a second ago too. I mean, obviously, we want to shop for our best choices, and we want quality, and we want convenience. Those are the things that we're all looking to make this happen on a regular basis. If we're making that decision to cook at home, and, because we're pointing to blood sugar here, ladies. We're talking about how we feel, how it's going to positively impact our health and our ability to stay more in tune with our blood sugar every day. So, and this may come, this comment may stir some feedback or some opinions, but my theory with just about everything that I purchase when it especially comes to food, because I will say it has gone up. We are spending more now than we ever have on a week's worth of ingredients. But I'm looking at the long term, because I know that cooking at home and spending whatever it is that I'm spending that week on groceries, it is well invested, because I know it's making me feel better. I know it's a good investment with my health. And and I'm going to use an example too, because we can go to grocery stores and we all see the buy one, get one free. They're usually right there at the door when we walk in. And ladies, I'm sure you know this. Generally speaking, it's just overstock on a store because it's most of it's junk. So we got to know that, it might be a great deal. We might come home with 2 or 3 packages for half the price. But think about how it's going to impact your relationship with food and what you are willing to spend time and money on and how you want to feel at the end of the day.
That's a great point. A
Yeah,
great
yeah. It really is our priorities. And when we're living with a chronic disease, we need to prioritize nutritional, nutritionally dense food. That's a mouthful, but it is real important. And I know it can be a challenge for many of us, in different stages of our life and economic status and all of that. But um,
And I think that relates to your point that the quality may be more expensive, but if
mm,
you buy a lot of cheap foods, how do you really feel? How are your blood sugars?
yeah,
Does it and I know that everybody also has a budget, but if
hmm,
you plan out your meals, that really does help decrease your cost.
yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So, like for instance, do you have just to go back to ingredients? Because I think ladies are going to be listening to this, or people in general, whoever is listening into our show today, and they're going to be like, okay, this is great. I've gotten some great tips. I can go to the farmer's market. I can shop, organic, frozen. That's definitely a good option. And obviously, it doesn't go bad, so it's good to have all that stored in your freezer. So it's a good go-to. And so, but what does that look like in my grocery shop, in my grocery cart? How can I make the difference how can I eat healthy on a budget? So I wanted to share too that I mentioned, or you just kind of gave a little giveaway about the Instacart that I've just started doing this maybe 6 months ago, only because I just didn't want to spend the time having to go around the store and box it all up and all of that. So I just wanted to say, you know what, I'm buying, and this is a good point, ladies, because I buy pretty much the same things all the time. generally speaking. So it makes Instacart, which is that service. Basically, it's just it's an online service where you can throw stuff into a shopping cart. They shop and bag it up for you, so you just go to the store and pick it up. They actually have delivery service too, so they can actually come to your home and drop it off. So, and there's just a couple dollar fee with that. So to me, it's worth the fact that it saves me time and it saves me money because, like you said, I'm not walking around the store buying a bunch of other things. So when you can intentionally pull up that site and say, okay, this is what I need. I need my spring lettuce. I need my avocados. I need my almond milk. I need my chia seeds, because these are the things that I build breakfast, lunch, and dinners on.
And they also save it for you, so it's easier once it's in your cart, it comes up again to pick from,
Yes, it
right?
sure does.
That
Yes.
makes it easier.
I slowed down long enough just recently and noticed that, because I think I used to do it on my desktop, and for some reason I never noticed it, but I did notice it this last time that I did it. Yeah, so easy. And that keeps us consistent. It also, we get used to what we're going to spend, because it can keep us on track based on what we're coming home with. I think the only off thing with this, maybe off or just kind of a side note, is we obviously don't want to keep buying the same fruits and vegetables,
Correct.
right? So we want a little variety. I know the basics are good, but we definitely want to bring in some other little things to add a little variety and more color. So what would you suggest with that, as far as trying to find ways to kind of mix it up to make our meals a little bit more interesting?
So one of the big studies, I think it came out in 2016, said that we need 30 different plants a
Mm,
week.
yes.
So if you think, oh, I've had broccoli for the last 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna switch to cauliflower or cabbage
Mm-hmm.
or something else. The other thing I really suggest with people is to try, at least some people are cooks and some people aren't. Some people like same thing all the time. Is to at least have one new recipe a month, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, so that you're changing things up. Or like if you always have a certain fruit with your eggs or whatever in the morning, change up
Mm-hmm.
that fruit from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like this week do berries, next week do apple slices or
Yeah.
whatever so you're thinking about increasing that variety,
Yeah.
especially if you have a little bit more time. If people are really busy, sometimes that doesn't happen, but on times where you have a little bit of downtime, thinking about something different can really help.
Yeah.
And
Good
then
point.
the
Mm-hmm.
CSA box, if you
Mm-hmm.
do a CSA box, I think one of the main things that came out to me was I had to find recipes to cook all those recipes.
Yes, that is true. It does push you to get creative, or, just to search, because I know both you and I both have recipes for the listeners that they can access. And yeah, it's just, and, I'm guilty of this as well, because I do tend to get into a rut and buy the same things a lot, over and over and over. I mix them up with how I cook them and maybe different spices and herbs and stuff. But I do tend to buy a lot of the same things. I do notice, and it's harder, I think, when it's, like, for instance, if you're at the grocery store and you're going through the produce section, or at a market, you can see different things. I think that's what gets our attention.
Oh, yes.
That makes a
That's the
big
downside of
difference.
Instacart, right?
Right, right. So the variety's there, but we may be coming home with more. But I love your idea. It really is important to try new things, to expand our taste buds and our, what we are eating, and to try new recipes. Absolutely.
I think too, when I started trying to get more different plants in every week, now when I roast veggies, it's not just roasted broccoli, it's broccoli and carrots and red peppers, or it's something.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do at least three, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh,
and that
yeah.
gives me. So then I'm thinking when I'm having a plan for the week, what three am I going to get this week?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good point. Good point. And I'm asked this a lot too, and I'm sure your clients come to you with this. It's like, yeah, I just don't know what to cook tonight. So it's like you say, start with the plan. You know what you have available. You should know what you bought that week, whether or not you're coming home from work and you're opening up the fridge and it's like, oh, what am I going to put together? I say, okay, do you have a bowl? Do you have some a high heat oil, like an avocado oil? Do you have some herbs? Okay, that's the basics. Now grab just whatever's in the fridge, whether it's some cauliflower, it's some peppers, it's some Brussels sprouts. I do the same thing as you. I literally just pull out 3 or 4 at a time, chop them up, throw them in a bowl, and just kind of put a little bit of oil and some herbs on it. They go right into a, like on a sheet with parchment paper, because I've finally learned about parchment paper, believe it or not. So
Wonderful.
it's easier cleanup. So it's something you can do in like 10 minutes, and it doesn't take that long to cook, maybe 15 minutes. And you've got an easy cleanup. You've got a nutrient dense meal. Again, we didn't talk too much about proteins today, but that's definitely something too to have on hand, whether it's animal protein or some plant-based proteins. Again, variety and
Exactly.
some things that,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I think some other things, let's see, there's also the sales. You can find the online
Mm,
sales. You can find the sales at any grocery store online for the week. So
good
that's
point.
another thing to think about is what's on sale, because that can really help decrease your food costs.
Sure,
But it's like
sure.
you just gotta take a little time to go online for whatever grocery store you have and see what they have and if any of that appeals to you.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing I do that saves money is I cook, and I'm somebody we're a family that eats leftovers, so I might cook
Hmm.
it once, but I'll eat it a couple of times. Or if I'm grilling chicken, I might grill a lot of chicken, so I have some for dinner, some for
Yeah.
lunches, some to make chicken salad or whatever.
Yeah, we do the
So
same thing. Absolutely.
it's like
Again,
reusing.
yeah, yeah. So have a plan and plan ahead.
Right,
Yeah,
right, and
yeah.
cook in large quantities.
Hmm.
Another thing, I wanted to mention that I've done several times in the past is if you're out of town and you're coming in on Sunday night and you don't have a plan for the week,
Mm,
one way to think about saving money, even if it doesn't seem intuitive at first that it's gonna save money, is some of these meal delivery services like
mm,
HelloFresh. You can get low carb versions, and the thing that makes them more efficient at saving money is you're only purchasing exactly what you need for the meal. So
mm.
there's nothing left over. So if you're coming in and you need something quick like that, that can help save money.
That's a great idea. I love that. Yeah, and we
Mhm.
all know that there's plenty of companies out there that are there to help us and provide services like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what I do because if you're coming in on Sunday night from a work trip or
yeah.
whatever, it really does help you not even have to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. And then, that's a great idea. Yeah. That's something, and now obviously that would be something that you would set up prior to vacationing or going out of town.
I think the
Yeah.
main thing to save money, though, is to turn it off so you don't get an
Oh, right.
automatic delivery.
Put it on pause until next time,
Yeah.
right? Mhm. And
Yes.
you know what I tend to do too, and I'm a little funny like this anyway. So anytime we travel, I like to come. I don't know about y'all, but I like to come home to a clean house, and I like to come home with food in the fridge. And that may sound a little weird because you don't want to buy ahead of time. It depends on how long you are traveling, But if you're just going away for a long weekend, but I try to do that where before I leave, I make sure that we've got some spring mix. We got some avocados. We've got some salmon in the freeze. It's something that's easy to defrost. So if you come home on a Sunday night after a long weekend, something that you can whip up and make a quick dinner, or then think about the week ahead, right? So
Yes.
you're not stressed
Yes.
to go grocery shopping on a Monday or something like that.
Yes.
So yeah, really, really good idea.
Let's see, another one is if you have the space and the time and the energy is to grow your own vegetables. That
We didn't
saves a lot of money. Now,
yes.
this really isn't the season for planting your garden, but that's something to consider for next year if
Mhm.
that can definitely save money.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. That's a great idea too. And we've had a garden on and off. The one we planted this year didn't give us much at all. That's just kind of a roll of a dice. But we've had some amazing years, with different greens really are easy to grow, and
Yes,
tomatoes tend to be, and peppers and stuff like that. So yeah,
yes.
again, it depends on where you are, what you like, and the season. So yeah, good.
And I'm a big herb girl, so even I
Mhm.
have, herbs in pots pretty much all year round,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
those have gotten more expensive, so
They sure have,
that's
yes.
something
If you
we
can
use a lot.
Mhm. Always helps to grow our own.
And then I think,
Amen.
like, using every part of the whatever, so, like, if you have a lemon, using the zest as well as the
Mm,
inside, that that can help save money, just being more frugal, and a lot of money is spent in food waste. So,
yes, yes.
thinking about your food waste and
Mhm,
what you're throwing out,
mhm.
that's another place to look at saving money.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And, that just reminded me of something too, because I know in a lot of the grocery stores here, they have where you can actually buy fruit and different vegetables already cut up and packaged. So this is kind of one of those, okay, so do you want to, is convenience more important, or, the fact that, it's going to take a little bit more time to maybe cut up your own vegetables. But I know it is cheaper to say, like you made it a point, like to buy a whole head of
Yes.
cabbage, or a melon. It does cost more money to have it already cut up and handed to you. So that's another thing to consider as well. It does save money. Again, there's going to be waste with the rinds and the cores and all of that. Composting might be an option for some people as well. So there is ways to kind of mitigate that. But I know I've heard this a lot from different people but I think whatever motivates you to get good food in front of you. So if you're willing to spend spend a little bit more money for maybe the bag of vegetables that are cut up and ready to go, or if you don't mind spending a few more minutes cutting it up yourself, you can save time with that. Definitely.
I feel like most of my prep is cutting.
Me too. Me too. Me too. But
But
I like to make, I love my kitchen, and I just feel very blessed at the fact that I can do it. I have access to it, and it's time well spent. And it's like what you were saying earlier, is to do a lot of this ahead of time. So for instance, if we're coming home with, like you say, cauliflower is one of those things that this is funny. This might be too much information, but cauliflower, to me, is the one vegetable that kind of aggravates me, because it's hard to cut up and it gets all over the place. So it's funny how we have those things that trigger us. So if I come home with a head of cauliflower, I put it off until way too long. It's like, I just need to get that thing out and cut it up.
ooh, that's a good point too, like,
Yes.
prep it, make it more ready to eat when you get home,
Yes.
because I have
Yes.
let stuff go bad that I didn't
Mhm.
prep.
Yeah, yeah. So take
So I
that
think
time on the front
yes,
end. It does save time. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, overall, that's what we want to do too. We want to use what we buy. You just mentioned that with the food waste. We've got to have a plan, and to not buy more than what we can eat. I mean, logically, there's obviously going to be times where we just don't get to it, unfortunately. But we can kind of take notice with that, and learn for the next time, or choose better the next time. But yeah, it really is about having a plan, buying what you need, using it, chopping it, cooking it, sauteing it, however you're going to eat it, and to make it worth the money you do spend on it.
and I think too that comes back to the point that we make in a lot of our podcasts talking to each other, is not beating yourself up if you do waste some food, but
Hmm.
just learn and,
Yeah,
analyze, like, what happened,
yeah.
and try not to let it happen
Yeah, yeah,
again.
I totally get it. Yeah, because I've been there too. Funny story. I was going to make asparagus. I think it was last night. It might have been 2 nights ago. And that asparagus was in my fridge for a week, and I took it out to chop it up to get it ready for the oven, and it was wasted.
It was done.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
It is
like, but you
frustrating.
learn. It's like I kept going by it in the fridge. I kept saying, no, I can't do it tonight. So again, we learn, maybe again, we just learn. So, just make that point. Don't beat yourself up for it. And just have to choose something else to go on that roasting pan,
That's
which is what
right.
I did.
That's right, and
Yeah.
it's also I think too, people are so busy, and if you have kids, there's all these things at night, and I think food waste is probably
Mm,
one of the ways you can save a lot of money
yeah.
is
Yeah.
not to have food waste or to really
Yeah.
work on minimizing your food waste.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you mentioned leftovers, which I know that can be a topic for some people. Some people we love leftovers. Because I do the same thing. I tend to make more. This is a recipe too. I just featured it on one of my articles. So it's a farro salad recipe. I just made some last week. So I make a big batch of it. So I'm talking like it's a big bowl, and you put some herbs and some tomatoes and some oil, a little bit of oil in there,
Um,
and it's just it. I mean, it's an easy go-to. So it's in the fridge, ready to go. It's okay at room temperature. You can warm it up. It's great over on top of a salad. It's great with a side of fish or any sort of meat you want for dinner. And it may sound like, okay, farro again. Well, you could add things to that farro within the meal to give it a little bit more jazz or spice it up. But it's a good base. It's a really good solid base that you make once, and you can enjoy it in so many ways. For up to 3 to 5 days that week. So
yeah,
just
I do
another
the
good
same thing with
example.
lentil salad or lentil soup in the
Mm-hmm.
winter, so
Oh
same
yes.
same kinda thing, and that's another good point, like, thinking about if you get, I don't know, like chicken, and then you have it baked one night, then you can take some of that and make it barbecued and put it into
Mm-hmm.
tacos or
Mm-hmm.
on pizza or how it's like thinking about how you can turn something into more than one thing. Like, how can
Yes.
I use
Yes.
this more than once?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it into tacos one night,
Mm-hmm.
chicken salad, however so it's not just baked chicken,
Yeah.
because I'll have a lot of
Absolutely.
people come up to me and go, "I just am
Chicken
tired of
again.
baked chicken."
Uh-huh. Definite ways to jazz it up. Yeah, yeah. And it goes back to the herbs, the different type of sauces. Again, be mindful of
Exactly.
sauces, ladies. This is definitely something that we got to be aware of what's on those bottles if we are buying them from the stores. But just to see how that's going to affect blood sugar. But there's ways to jazz it up. This is another side note too. At our market, we buy a lot of kraut, so sauerkraut and
Fermented foods.
olives, fermented foods. But that is a go. It's like I have made, gosh, I know we're just talking food today. I love this topic. But I'll take like what you just mentioned is maybe some chicken breast that I had made the night before. So you can chop that up into a big bowl, add in a little bit of, I use like an avocado based mayo just for a little bit of moisture. And then I put in some sauerkraut. So they have different flavors of sauerkraut. It's turmeric and ginger and beet sauerkraut, but it's beautiful.
Yeah,
So you've got that fermented vegetables and that advantage of that. Plus you've got some protein. You can even maybe have that again on a bed of lettuce. If you can't tell, we eat a lot of lettuce, so that tends to
yeah.
be the bed of our plate. Throw some avocado on there, a little side of farro. Man.
Sounds good. Almost sounds like a Buddha bowl, you know?
Yes, yes. So good, so good. So yeah, so what as we wrap it up today, what 3 takeaways? I know we've given you a lot of great ideas, and we hope this has been helpful for you all. And again, we'd love to hear from our listeners. So please reach out and let us know. So what do you think, Kitty? What do you think the tips
Well,
that they can get
not to
started
sound like
on?
a broken record, but the planning is a big
Planning,
part of it.
yes.
Um, think about ways to avoid the food waste. I think that's one of the
Mm,
biggest things. When I hear that 40% of food is wasted,
yeah.
that's when I know that food costs can definitely come down by using all the food
Mm,
that you
good point.
prepare that you buy.
Mhm.
And then I think The other thing is to use the resources that you have in your community, the farmers markets, the
Mhm.
CSAs, the big box places that are cheaper.
Yeah, good
Um,
points. Yeah.
all of those can make a difference, or Instacart. I
There
haven't
you
been
go.
on the Instacart thing
Yeah.
yet, but that's do you have another point to add to that, or you think that's the top
Yeah, I
3?
think, and one of the things that we're going to link here in the show notes is access to recipes, because I think we talked about a few things, but we'll definitely have that available for whoever is interested in learning more about how we can kind of put all this together. I actually have a download that it's a free resource that I created, which is making, I believe it's 7 days of recipes. I'll have to go back and look at that, and I should have gotten my notes out before I mentioned it, but it's basically recipes using 10 basic ingredients. So again, if we have these on hand, we can really build some delicious things around, kind of how we talked about earlier in the hour.
Ooh, think about how much money that would save, 10 ingredients to make all those
Yes.
recipes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I base this on the fact that I just mentioned. I do tend to buy the same things. I think many of us do. We have those basics in the pantry, in the fridge.
Those 10
Most
things we do all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And that's good. That's great. Those are good foundational ingredients that we can kind of expand on and create some lots of different types of meals. So yeah,
We're
definitely.
creatures of habit, aren't we?
We are. Yeah, we know what we like.
We do.
Yeah, and we know it works. So we keep going with what works, which is important. So well, awesome. Well, check out our show notes today, and you can find Kitty on Track Lifestyles, and we will link her website here in the show notes, and you can find some recipes from her, and just let us know how we're doing, and share the show. And we hope that this topic helped you in the kitchen. So have a beautiful, well balanced, well planned week. Do the best we can to stay on track. And until next week, bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. And be sure to check us out at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for our free resources. See you next week.